So let me be very clear. Bill C-63 reads like it was written by a semi-literate banana-eating monstrosity of a calligraphist sitting in a bar stool with no seat, rotating at 60 clicks a second while they drink Kool-Aid mixed with vodka, complaining that they feel a little sick. Can they please have an Advil? Are you telling me that whatever subhuman, ionically frustrated, underinformed, overfed, diabolically distended dope show never once realized that kids are still raised by parents who don't hate their kids? Unlike these policymakers, sorry excuse for a sperm injector, most people's families actually worked out without the intrusive thoughts of some over emotional joy despiser. I have never seen a bigger projection of parental decay and childhood trauma than Bill C-63. And to make it worse, the trauma they're injecting isn't even mine. April 29th, 2026, and if you're still wondering how the comic reporter feels about all of this shit, well, wonder no more. You have kids, you know that your kids are as rebellious an individual as any adult, perhaps even more so. There are a bunch of things growing up teaches you, and the more chances at doing stuff your kids have, the better they'll typically be when they get past 25 and figure out that everything you taught them was an absolute waste of time and they never talk to you again because you ruined their life, and quite frankly, they'd be better off if you'd aborted them, according to them. And that attitude lasts until about 35 when they have kids, and having a free babysitter is something that is essential to them having any money at all. In other words, kids are great. But let me be very clear, and I will say this from the absolute depths of my very immortal soul. B63 is the single most distasteful, untrusting, society destroying, parental manipulating, child slavery type bill I have ever seen any policymaker ever attempt to push upon the innocent general population in my entire time writing rants and roasts and comedy, or even just basically existing. I don't care if you're talking about hate speech or social media. I'm about to break your ears wide open without committing a single crime, and you're going to sit there and you're going to like it because, holy dear, whatever God you worship, how in the absolutely devastated world of the family unit did we manage to get into a spot where kids can't be kids, and if they are, adults go to jail? Seriously, what is going on here? There is nothing in this world that I hate more than an online moralizing, turd-chewing, dirtbag policy influencer. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, there are people, we'll call them people because that's what the manual says. These are the people who sit on their ever-expanding rear ends telling us about how they wish they could have kids and family, but it's so expensive and so time-consuming and so difficult that they just don't think they could possibly justify bringing life into this world when it's so dangerous and so deadly and so hateful. These are the absolute psychopaths who want you to believe that having children is the ultimate affront to deforestation, and by doing so, you are reducing the lifespan of the world by 2 minutes per child. Thus, you are immoral and required to suffer while your children work endlessly to pay for the very platform they use to petition the government to put their news channel on the next federal budget. These people, these policy influencers, are the worst people who have ever shown up on the internet. Way worse than Alex Jones and only slightly worse than Andrew Tate. You know what? At least Alex and Andrew used their talent to entertain people. These government policy freaks are dedicated to one thing and one thing only, saying the right thing at the right time to the right person to get the right amount of friction so that it looks like they're talking to someone who isn't a robot. Because clearly their audience is just a pile of foreign robots. Do you know why I do rants and roasts 90% of the time on this channel? Because I'm good at them. Most of the time they'll be about situations or people, but more and more often I find myself in a position where words are becoming a much better target for these absolutely beautifully designed vocabulatory stretches of alphabeticorical glory. I can write better laws than these people, and I never even went to law school. Thank you, John A. MacDonald. Bill 63 needs to be burned with eternal and unextinguishable flames, only found in the deepest and most punishing pits of the outer layers of hell that even Beelzebub fears crossing into. This is among the most atrocious overreaches of child-fearing hatred for parents and children I have ever witnessed in all of my years as a parent, and I've had 25 of those. That's a lot of atrocious overreach. For those who don't know, the online harms rule is back. That's Bill C-63 for future reference. And it's better than ever. Now, instead of one soul-crushing attention monitoring crime prediction bill of doom, we have two of them. Listen to me very clearly. When politicians start replacing bill numbers with acronyms, that is your cue to start screaming and honking your horn at whatever location you think will have the most effect. I'm not saying you should drive up to anywhere in particular in one giant group and cause as big a kerfuffle as you can without being violent in any way, shape, or form. I would never suggest that. I'm just saying that the Emergencies Act has now been shut down 4 times, and it wouldn't be illegal if you did, according to the Supreme Court. The first half of the bill is the online hate bill, which is the second stupidest and most insane law this country has ever tried to impose on its law abiding yet somewhat occasionally upset population. This is the part of the bill where if you use any language not deemed parliamentary, you can be fined or jailed or throttled on the internet because you were using potty words your grandmother taught you. And that's a big no-no in the world of the Human Resource Department. And the only reason that that is the second stupidest bill is because the other half of the old C-63 is the worst bill ever written. That's the one where the government wants to give postmenopausal childless cat ladies control over the content your kids are allowed to consume because they hate their fathers, or their father left, or their uncle was drunk, or some variation of that. Are we serious? Are we using projection to trauma dump the problems these policymakers had with their own families to make the rules happy families have to follow because these psychopaths are angry their lives didn't turn out the way they wanted them to? I'm sorry. Did feminism lie to you? Look, I'm sorry that on June 5th, 1965, your second cousin snuck into the bathroom while you were having a shower and you thought that meant he loved you. That is unfortunate. However, usually when someone wants to unload their childhood experiences, they do it by writing a book. Maybe under a pen name, perhaps with a ghostwriter, definitely with a ghostwriter. But you aren't supposed to take your childhood family drama and try to turn it into a law. Did these people even once survey families that weren't falling apart at the seams? Did they talk to people who like being parents? Because this entire thing reads like these people watched The Bride of Chucky or Schindler's List and decided that movie needed to be turned into a parliamentary debate. Here's what it is. The House of Commons in its entirety, every single MP, is suffering from a severe case of main character syndrome. Red ties, blue ties, orange ties, green ties, purple ties, every single one. It's just mental illness after mental illness. And I don't say that with a single ounce of hatred. I love every single one of these 343 knuckleheads. I just think they could really use a hug. Look, they're all friends of the show. If what they need is a hug, just drop me a line and we can hug it out. It might help to ease the pain of the clear trauma they are carrying into their everyday enslavement of the Canadian population. I mean, clearly they are all just broken kids in expensive suits who polish their shoes once too often. These laws and rules they are trying to say are good ideas and only possible when one is high on the vapors of overly shiny footwear and one too many doses of NyQuil. Listen, guys, ladies and gentlemen of the IQ deficient common house of Inner Canada, hear my words. I can weaponize words far better than you can. And the more rules you make, the better my speech will get. That's how progress works. You water down both language and communication until no one can understand a single word anyone even says, even if they're speaking English to each other, because they all just manifested their own version of the English language in order to talk to themselves. Do we seriously not see what we're doing here? If we cannot agree on what hate even is, and this bill doesn't even try to decide the definition, then you cannot codify hate into any law that is any way enforceable in any way that could even loosely be called even-handed or level-headed. This entire disaster of a WordPress document is designed to leave the definition of words open so some devastated Karen can pick and choose who she wants to punish for calling her whatever word she has decided is a slur that day. How do you not see this? Both parts of these bills aren't bills, they're revenge fantasies. These were both clearly written by people who see Canada as someone they have chosen to pick a bone with. And no, I don't care what your policy influencer says as they flaunt themselves around on their moral high road, declaring their undecided nature on their opinion of whether these bills are good or bad, and waterboard us with their performative tug of war as they ping pong themselves between the virtues of protecting children that aren't theirs from the horrors of the online world and the other side of letting criminals run rampant through the IPs of helpless innocents, murdering and pillaging as they uproot the very foundation of the country this internet was built on. Are we serious right now? Look, perhaps Parliament needs a crying room, perhaps a morning sing along or a group hug. Clearly, something is very wrong up in these very large noggins of yours because this is a monstrosity of human rights violations. If any of you think, even for a second, that you can protect children in any way by limiting their social media and internet access, you are 100% provably wrong, and every single parent who has ever lived not only knows it, but lived it ourselves. When they tried this thing in Australia, not only did it fail, it made things way, way worse. All the kids did is find a way to break the law in every single way possible, making parents' jobs even harder because their government pathologized parental intervention. Do none of you know what a VPN is? None of you? This is seriously a sign of the complete collapse of the government's institutional authority to dictate terms. There's not a single human being who could possibly see it as anything other than a desire to crush every single family into dust. Imprison fathers, force mothers into being single, bring children totally into government care. You really need to start psychiatric evaluations on every one of your sitting MPs. Some of them are deeply, deeply wounded by whatever family trauma they've experienced, and all of it is showing up in this bill. You will never be able to codify hate, ever. You can't define it, you can't subvert it, and you can't stop it. If you stigmatize one word, society will just create another. If you criminalize one action, someone will find a way to creatively execute another method to commit the same crime. That means you are wasting time and money playing whack-a-mole with semantics while you could be incentivizing integration. Reward good behavior. Stop creating ways to perform bad behavior. You guys are all lawyers. This is not news to you. You all know this. And because you know this, I have to think this is all on purpose. The goal, it seems, is to make sure that it doesn't matter what the population does. The ban hammer can come down anywhere at any time for any reason. And that's why this all looks like a performative game of self-validation for people who hate their father, and maybe even their mother, maybe their grandfather. I don't know who touched you, and I don't care. It's not my problem. And it's too bad because we don't actually hate you. We hate what you do. And what you are doing here is unbelievably transparent to the point of insultingly despicable. There is no national emergency that involves the population of this country unless that population is the 343 vindictive, decreasingly elected officials in that place we call Ottawa. Buckle up. The roasts are only going to get way hotter. It's not the people that need to wake up here in Canada. It's the MPs.